This show's been brought to you by Anarchy Wear. They are a great organization who sells clothing, banners like what's behind me, hats, all kinds of stuff. And they're absolutely amazing. Not only do they put out awesome content, they also make awesome things like this. And if you're a Spooner fan, you have this. Let me stand up. I didn't sign shit. Lysander Spooner. If you're a Spooner fan, you'll totally understand. If you're not a Spooner fan, get in my DMs and I'll let you know, because he's one of the greatest to ever do it. This flag behind me, enemy of the state. Man, that's Murray Rothbard, the greatest to ever do it. I'm a Rothbardian. He is my favorite economist. He is my favorite anarchist, libertarian, whatever you want to call him. Fantastic material that he's put out. I highly recommend you read his books, but Anarchy Wear has everything from bold to cute and modest. You know what I mean? So like, check them out at Anarchy Wear on X, aka Twitter, at anarchywear.ca on anything meta, being Facebook and or Instagram. They're awesome. I love those guys. They're doing great things, and I highly recommend you follow them and get some goods from them, man. I love everything I have from these guys, and they're amazing. And let me throw this in for you. If you use promo code BudsNReality, Buds, letter N, reality. I know you know how to spell. If you're watching this show, you're pretty smart. I know you are. Anyways, get at them, get yourself some gear. And if you use the promo code BudsNReality, you will get yourself 15% off. Who doesn't like a deal? So get at them, check them out. They are great, awesome people. Thank you for the sponsor, and let's get on with the show. Welcome to the BudsNReality Show. I'm Sean Collins, the guy with a lot to say, and I'm here with a repeat guest, Mr. Ben DeJong, man, from LPMI. How you doing, dude?
Woo woo! Back in the house. Feels good to be back. Just had you on my podcast, and so it's always nice to be able to scratch the other back.
Dude, it was actually, I had a lot of fun on your podcast, dude, because we touched on some things, and there were some disagreements in there too. It was great. Ryan's face was the best when I said, Israel was an inside job, and I saw him at our local affiliate meeting. He's like, oh man, he's like, dude, I got receipts on this side or the other. I'm like, hey man, you can have all the receipts you want, real is real. And we had a good laugh about it. It was great, but man,
it was a good discussion.
It was a good discussion. I hope y'all go back and listen to the state, the State 180 podcast, and hear our discussion and listen to Ben's stuff, man, because it's good. He's kind of, me and you share the same brain a little bit when it comes to like foreign policy and banking and Fed and econ and stuff like that. So it's nice to run through, similar minds when it comes to things like that, because those are things that not a lot of people are really talking about.
Yeah, unfortunately and I think that's by design, because if you can get upset about the gender of the toilets at the local bathroom, and you're not talking about what the Fed's doing or what the military industrial complex is doing, like that's what the system wants you to be upset about.
What does it matter? Carla has a dick, right? Whatever. This is the world we live in.
You're going to run into a dick no matter where you go anymore, so just grin and bear it.
So they say. Giggity giggity. All right. Sorry, that's my quagmire. Anyhow, we're gonna have a discussion today that needs to be had. And it doesn't just need to be had, because of the Libertarian Party. It needs to be had because of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. It's not a big secret what's happening here. Anybody who is involved with the Libertarian Party, and I'm talking about the larger names on a bigger scale, knows that the Libertarian Party of Michigan is in disarray at this point. And it's actually extremely sad. And it's hard to explain from a personal standpoint without getting upset, because, a lot of us put a lot of work into this. And, people just be like, well, Sean, you just do this once a week show for an hour or an hour and a half. And, that's your time. And what they don't realize is, and this too, because you do your pod, it's not just about the time you put into your podcast itself. It's about the time you read the books. It's about the time you read the news stories. It's about the time you read the other news stories and the other news stories and the other news stories, because you have to make an educated guess, because you don't know who's lying to you or not. Okay. And when it comes to the media, it's all bullshit. And we all know that. So the fact of the matter is and before we get into this, I need to say this. When we get into this show and really dig into what's going on in the Libertarian Party of Michigan, I want you guys to know that I come from a place of love. I come from a place of respect, and I come from a place of concern. And I feel like my grievances are very logical per se, because, you know, when we're trying to get people involved and get new people into the party, but they can't even join the party online because our bank account is tied up in a situation in a court battle, which we'll get into later, it's hard to be like, hey, man, join LPMI and you could just jump online and do this, because they really couldn't for a while. They really couldn't. And that's the craziest thing. And, you know, I'm glad to have you on because you are very involved with LPMI. What is, you know, let's start. Let's get into this, man. You know, what is your, before we get going, really, what is your title with LPMI?
So I kind of hold or wear two hats. So I am the District 2 rep. I believe it's 2. The districts got reshuffled, but I believe I'm the District 2 rep on the Libertarian Michigan Party on their executive committee. So I'm a board member. And I'm also the co-director of the communications for the state party. So Josh Youngma and I share co-director basically our responsibilities. He's more on he is the author and publishes the monthly newsletter for the party. So if you're already on the email, you probably get the party newsletter or a link to it. Josh has mostly been running with that, where I manage more the social media accounts. So the communications director positions is relatively new for both Josh and I. We were elected those a little over a month ago. So we're really kind of testing the water, so to speak, as far as trying to fill things out for those roles. We've kind of looked at our roles and responsibilities as far as the party goes, and trying to make improvements where we see there's a need. And whether we want to jump into this now or later, internal communications in the party has been miserable for as long as I've been in the party. So a little background for me, I've been an active state party member for a little over 3 years. I kind of started right around when there was, again, that I don't like the language, but kind of the Mises takeover in Reno. At that convention, I started at the state party just prior to that. I really liked a lot of the messaging from the Mises caucus about focusing on local elections, getting the party back on kind of the straight and narrow instead, again, not looking at, you know, the dude or the lady or the pronoun next to in the urinal, but like, again, we should be talking foreign wars, our dollar, like the stuff the libertarians really, that was the bread and butter to me, at least. And the party really got hung up on a lot of the woke stuff that had been happening, and I felt it was a waste of time and effort, because that, to me, that's a distraction. That's not moving forward liberty about your pronouns. Like that's great if you want to be called Z, Zem, or whatever, but I don't have to call you that. Like, and that was where I really had a disconnect with the party, because they were pushing the no, you should call them by their pronouns. I'm like, whatever happened to Ron Paul and whatever to Mises and like you know, the real tenets of the party. Like, I want to take down the Federal Reserve. I don't want to talk about pronouns. So that's really what appealed to me with the Mises Caucus, and what got me finally, I mean, I've been a long time national member of the party because I realized, I think it was Iraq War II, kind of a similar to Tucker Carlson, where I was I was born in a conservative family, and all of a sudden I was kind of spouting these, go George Bush. And then you start, peeling back that onion. You're like, oh, wait a second. This is some bullshit. Like, this is about like, making daddy happy and like oil, and it's about money. And it's like, oh, wait a second. Like, all of a sudden you do that, that turn. You're like, all right, oh, I'm not going left and I can't stay right. What else is out there? And Justin Amash was my gateway drug. you know, um, I started attending his town halls. And I remember that one of the first things he talked about is like, you know what? I consider myself a libertarian Republican. And so he's like, if you want to learn more, and he's like, go to Reason, check out these liberty. Like, he wasn't pointing people at conservative outlets or media. He was pointing people at for libertarians. And so that was my like, oh, okay. And who does he look up to? Oh, Ron Paul. Oh, let's check out Ron. Like, I think probably mirroring a lot of people's, like, again, kind of gateway, whether it was Ron Paul, whether it was a Justin Amash or a Thomas Massey, like, especially coming from the right. So kind of that's where I started in the Libertarian Party. And what I'd love to talk about in this podcast is, because I don't think people fully understand the dysfunction that the party started from. And I say started because, from my perspective, I started 3 years ago. Now, I think that dysfunction had been going on a long before then, but it was like coming to a head when I jumped in. And I remember, attending my first convention and having people shouted down from the stage because they were a Mises caucus. And so they were being like actively told, fuck you, shut up, sit down, you piece of shit. Like, I was like, is this a leftist convention? Like, where's Antifa? But this was libertarian conventions, and it was disgraceful. And then to get on to, some of the, monthly executive session meetings, and to have people having to be silenced because they wouldn't stop shouting people down. I'm like, I was multiple times, I was so close to being like, you're a bunch of fucking children. I'm out. Like, this is ridiculous. And it wasn't, the only thing that kept me was some of the friendships I made right off the bat. And I'm like, these are cool people. Their heart's in the right place. I'm sticking it through. If they can stick through this, I'm sticking through this. And that's where I don't know how to stress this enough. Like, you being whoever's listening, that's, maybe a current member, or maybe you're active, or maybe you've just heard rumors in the party. However bad you think it is today, you have no idea. You have no idea where we've already come from. So yeah, there is a lot of problems right now, but they pale in comparison to where we've come from. They still need to be addressed. And I think they need to be addressed because the last thing we want is to de-evolve back to where we came from, which was a utter shit show. Like, utter shit. Like, I had the displeasure of meeting some people in the party that I think still to this day are some of the worst human beings I've ever seen, interacted, or heard in my life. And these were party members. So yeah, we can kind of get into, where we're at today, but I think people need to understand where we came from. And there's a lot of newer members, or maybe members who are just re-engaging, that really never had the flavor of the shit show that we came from. And my concern is, I don't want to devolve back into that. And I don't want to see another split, because I don't think we can afford another split in the party.
Well, the split in the party is what's happening right now, and it's happening here big time in Michigan. You know, and it's not just in Michigan. Let me point that out right now. And I promised people that I wouldn't use names, so I'm not going to use names, but there's plenty of other states that have this same problem, but not to the extent that's happening here. Like, for instance, you know, well, let's start from the beginning. You know, the Libertarian Party started in 1971, correct? 1970, 1971.
Right around there, yep.
71. I believe it was 71. Now, nobody's been a real libertarian since. You know, there's my joke for the show. But nobody has been a real libertarian ever since. And the fact of the matter is it's because it's either Republican light or Democrat light. You know what I'm saying? And they leave the principles of the party. And they try to bring in this authoritarianism to it. This is what I've seen with my own eyes. And if I'm wrong, please. And I'll own it if I am.
Well, very few libertarians came into the party because their parents were libertarians. More often than not, they were raised right or they were raised left. They found a reason to leave that, you know, whether it's the Democrats or Republicans, and they've brought that baggage into the Libertarian Party. And that's, I think that's just natural. Again, we need to understand where people are coming from. Rarely, I mean, I think Clint Russell is the first person I've ever heard of who his parents were libertarians. Like, so he's a second generation libertarian. I didn't think, you know, that to me, that's the unicorn. I'm like, that exists? Because almost everybody has migrated from, you know, one of the other parties. And so I think we need to keep that into consideration is, you know, that's growing up, being a child, being a part of a family, there's an element of indoctrination that occurs. And that's cultural. It doesn't necessarily mean, you know, you vote Democrat, you vote Republican, although that's there too, but they're being raised with those values. And so, yeah, they may rebel against that, or they may find a piece of that are like, yeah, I don't like that anymore. What's halfway between where I'm at now and the Republican Party, the Democratic? Well, that must be the Libertarian Party. And so I think that needs to be, you know, we need to kind of keep that in mind where there is discord, it tends to be along the old lines of Republican versus Democrat.
Right. Now, when we go through all this, you know, my big qualm with what's happening right now within the Libertarian Party is are we not trying to end the Fed? Are we not trying to end the wars? And are we not trying to end the empire? And if the answer isn't yes to all three, once again, here's my other joke, you're not a real libertarian. If the answer isn't yes to all three, you're not a real libertarian, period. But, you know, for the people that do want to do these things, they put in a lot of work for it. And they fight their best and they say their best and they do their best, you know, and then you got people coming in here, you know, that will, and it's from both sides. Now, I'm not a Mises Caucus guy, nor am I somebody from the old guard. I'm not here for a caucus. I'm here for a cause. Okay. So this is me as an outsider looking in. And what I see is people from both sides saying, if the Mises Caucus is doing this, we're not going to be involved. And the Mises Caucus people saying to the old guard, if they're doing this, we're not going to be involved. What the fuck? Like, how are we supposed to get ahead when, you know, and I'll steal something from Spike Cohen. Why are you going to fight with people you agree with? If the ultimate goal is the ultimate same, why are we doing this? Because it really doesn't matter who gets things done as long as they're getting done. But as long as we are fighting amongst ourselves, nothing is getting done. Zero, zip, nada. And this is where we are today. And here we are in 2023, going into 2024, which is once again the most important election of our lifetime. But really, there's a unique opportunity for libertarians in 2024 because people have had enough of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. I've had multiple people at this point come to me and say, hey, from both sides, by the way, saying, hey, we are done with this, but we can't get involved with you guys because of your infighting. This is the major qualm. And I've also had somebody come to me personally and say, hey, I've been, and this isn't a Michigan person, but this person said, hey, I've been donating to my state party, Libertarian Party, $10,000 a year until now, because they won't settle the fuck down between themselves. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but the Libertarian Party isn't a bunch of millionaires that come from a lot of money that have donors and all this shit. When you have somebody saying they've been donating $10,000 a year to the party and they're leaving because of infighting, that's a problem. And I guarantee you this person is not the only one.
Yeah, and kind of to your point about don't we have the same goals? I think in most cases we do. The fight is over the tactics of how to achieve the goals. And that can be very frustrating, because if the goals are the same, why should the tactics they matter, but why should they become more important than the goals? And it's like it's fighting over the weeds when it's like we're in a forest. Stop fighting over the weeds. We need to get through the forest. And I think one of the big things, and I can speak for Michigan, in my involvement in the West Michigan affiliate, and seeing it from kind of an outside perspective, especially when I first started, was there was this idea from the Mises caucus is like, you've been doing the same thing every year over and over again, and you're happy with 2% of the governor race or the secretary of state race, and you pat yourselves on the back, and then you go home and you do the same thing the next year. And I think, I don't think this is unique to Michigan, but there's just people, I think that was the big fuel for the Mises caucus, was stop, do something different. Like, this isn't working. That's great that you want, you get to hang out with your friends, every month at your affiliate meeting, and you get to, spend a weekend at a hotel, once, twice a year for a convention, but you're not achieving anything. You're not growing. You're not winning. So what are you? You're just a social club.
And you just hit the nail on the head. Like, dude, we got people that are excited to take 5% of the vote. Why are you running then? Why are you running to just get 5%? Why aren't you running to win? This is my big qualm with the Libertarian Party too, because I am not a real libertarian. Okay. I'm an anarchist. I'm an ANCAP. At the end of the day, that's what I am. I appreciate libertarians because that is the closest that we are ever going to get to my ultimate goal when it comes to this. Okay. Like libertarians and anarchists are actually very close. Like, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff, don't violate private property. That's so anarchist. The only difference is there's a state or not a state. And there's a little bit of a different way to go about it, even though they're kind of the same. They are very much the same. You can't have libertarianism without anarchy. It's impossible, because libertarians come off the anarchist principle, period. But when you say like, hey, we were happy with 2% or 3%, we need to be done with that mentality. We need to go in there and be like, hey, man, we're going to win this shit. And if we don't, we don't. Okay. But it's not about, hey, we're just going to get 5% to get ballot access, or we're just going to do this to get our name out there. And we'll get to the social club in a minute. But like, dude, Robert Kennedy Jr. is running as an independent now. He pulled out of the Democrat race part of it. He's running as an independent and is polling at 20% already. There ain't no libertarian that's going to poll 20%, especially
that's blowing Ross Perot out of the water, and he was the most successful third party candidate. And I think that's to me, that's disheartening, because look at how many times the Libertarian Party had a chance to do that. And yes, maybe that's because we just don't have the candidate base and there's notoriety, name notoriety with, RFK. But like, here is somebody who doesn't even have an affiliate with any party, and he's making us look like nothing.
Yeah.
And that's like, it is disheartening, because libertarians are our own worst enemies, because there is never going to be a pure enough libertarian. I mean, just look at Javier Milei in Argentina. Like, already libertarians are attacking him because of his foreign policy stance, because he's, pro-Israel. And it's like, oh yeah, you're right, that's a fucking like gross, that to me, that's gross. But what is he going to be doing to the country of Argentina? Like, he's like, there are so many times people go, well, libertarian's great in theory, but like, show me in practice where it actually did anything. And you're like,
You have
well,
to see
back
it
in
now.
1895, like, we have some like small test cases, but we don't have a perfect like libertarian state or anarchist state that we can say, hey, here's proof of concept, this is what we took over, this is like, we have that in Argentina now. Like, yeah, his foreign policy stances are gross, but what could this do for the libertarian movement? Like, you need to get on board with this kind of shit, and you need to celebrate the win instead of looking at the deficit or the failure or the, I don't agree with him on this policy. And I've seen that the same thing. I mean, we've talked about Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, not a big fan with his foreign policy either, but he did the same thing that Javier did. He was like, first day in office, here's the agencies, I'm cutting 50% right off the bat, right away. And he listed them all out. And he said, by the end of the year, these are all going to be closed. And it's like, why can't we get on board with somebody like that, even though we don't agree with him 100%? But like, man, he's way better. Like, when's the last time you saw a presidential candidate that lined up federal agencies and said, I'm closing these all within the first year of my term? Like, that's where I think libertarians, again, we're looking for perfection in a world that is never going to give it to us.
Well, my rebuttal will first be first. Viva la libertad, carajo! Dude, I get goosebumps. Look at the hair on my arm standing up. Look at that. Look at that right now. Argentina has just elected the first libertarian president in the history of anything that is political, okay? And how the fuck did he do that? Unity. That man had hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, lining the streets to cheer him on because of unity.
Do you think?
Not
Do you
because
think
he
it was
wasn't a real libertarian or who was in charge or who wasn't in charge. I'm getting fucking mad right now. I love you guys so much, but it's time to get mad.
My thought with Javier is it was authenticity. To me, that's what really sold me. Is there's no doubt in my mind that he 1000% believes everything he's saying when he quotes, Rothbard and Mises, like, and he's waving the, don't tread on me flag. And he, even in, they speak Spanish or Portuguese?
They're Spanish.
Spanish. Okay. I know there's a couple of Portuguese nations down south, but like, I didn't even know what he was talking about, but just looking in his eyes and the fire that he lit because of how passionate he was. Like, there was like, he's a rock star. He's a rock star. And
but
that's
he's a
where
rock star because people united behind him. The party united behind him. There wasn't this infighting of bullshit that kept them out of the loop. If there was the infighting in Argentina with the ANCAP Libertarian Caucus, whatever you want to call it down there, I don't know what to call it. But if there was the infighting that was happening there, that is happening here in the United States, especially in the state of Michigan, he would have not won. He wouldn't even been a part of that runoff, period.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact, as Americans, we're spoiled as shit. If you're at 100 plus inflation in Argentina and you're barely scraping by, you don't know where your next meal's coming from. Your national currency is trash, so you're trying to get like paper dollars. all of a sudden, I think unity becomes so much more important because your life depends on it. What I'm scared is I
I think
don't
you need to
want
say that a little louder for all the Americans.
unity is something that comes natural when your life depends on it. And in America, we're spoiled. We can argue over trans bathrooms and like that's not on the radar of Argentinians. Like
Yeah, but that
they're
shit's about to spoil here. That's the thing. Like, shit is about to spoil here. And you and I have both been preaching about this on our shows, because we both share the same brain when it comes to econ and the banking system. Argentina was ready for change because the shit leftists fucking ran their country into the ground, destroyed their economy, and destroyed their dollar. The problem here with America is it's not just the shit leftists. We have the shit right who are doing the same exact thing at the same exact time. It's all about endless wars. It's all about endless spending. That's how Rome fell. I just watched a church service about this. They're like, Rome fell because they wouldn't stop printing money and the endless wars. And here we are in America, and it's only a matter of time, you guys. I know I projected the dollar to fall over the summer, and I'll eat that. I'm sorry. I fucking probably shouldn't have said that. But I will say this. I think 2025, it is going to happen. And it's going to be whoever the new president is or the old president. It's going to be whoever's in charge fault. But the fact of the matter is, it's that it's both sides' fault for the endless printing and the endless wars and the endless divide of the country. It's happening.
And we can all agree that that's the inevitable, right? I mean, the blueprint's there. We have Rome, we have the British Empire. We know what happens when you overextend and you overspend. So timing, that's always up for debate. And I'm still shocked that we were able to kick the can down the road as far as we have with as much as we printed.
I really thought over the summer. I remember telling people on this show, and once again, I will apologize for that because I was wrong. But like, I remember telling people like, hey, it's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner than later. It's going to happen this summer. This summer came and went. I'm going to eat that. I apologize. I was wrong, but it is going.
I don't think you were wrong. The issue is that it happened, but those banks that failed, I think last time I read that their balance sheet was between the three of them, that it was greater than the 2008 collapse, but it was somehow buried under the rug where we had, basically, what is it? Privatized gains and public losses. So the government ate the losses and JP Morgan ate
the government ate the
gains.
losses means we ate the losses. The government don't eat shit.
But again, they were able to do that kind of under the radar with some of these Federal Reserve programs. And that's where I think money printing, like that's why they love doing it, because it papers over a million sins. And so when they were able to turn on the printers and create these, we had a collapse this year, and it just didn't get recognized enough by Main Street. Or
they blamed it on inflation. Like the inflation went up the highest it ever went.
They blamed it on Putin.
They blamed everything except themselves in the central banking system. That's what they do. That's their MO. That we all know better. Like, this is the thing. But let's not to get too far off track. When it comes to unifying people and getting the unity involved to get this movement in place, we have to get there. And I can't be involved in every state. I'm involved in the state of Michigan right now, which happens to be one of the most communist states in the United States, like probably top three, to be quite honest. It's probably California, New York, Michigan. Maybe Michigan's number 4 under Illinois, but Illinois is really just Chicago. That's their communism right there.
Right, we're catching up. I mean, we have, I mean,
we're there. So
when Whitmer started, when she started, I think there was like a $40 billion, I remember there was a massive surplus. I just read an article,
and now they've
already spent it all.
We owe money.
Yep, already been spent on bullshit programs. And I think, again, kind of tying back the economic kind of like doomsday clock that we all know is ticking. That's where I think what I'd love to see is that kind of a call to arms for the Libertarian Party of Michigan, specifically saying, we know what's coming. We have our Argentina's our future if we continue this way. We know, why do we want to wait until we can't feed ourselves, or we're so afraid of for where our next meal is coming from, until we course correct, until we do something about it? And I'm, to your point earlier about the infighting, it's like all of that time and effort, all of that time and effort. Can you imagine what we could have accomplished if we would have directed that towards almost anything else? And again, I don't want to go back to just running candidates for, college boards and mayors and secretary of states. I my call to arms is get involved locally. You don't need to run for an election to make an impact in your local government. I sit on 2 committees in my local village, the Downtown Development Authority and the Planning Commission. These are unelected seats. They were just vacant. I rang up the chair and I said, I'd like to be a part of it. I attended one meeting. I swore an oath. Well, not necessarily that. Basically, like, yeah, I will uphold X, Y, and Z. Now, all of a sudden, in one meeting a month for both of them, I'm making an impact in my local community. That's what I want to see the Libertarian Party do. I want 50% of our members on a local commission or a board. It doesn't have to be an elected position for people to make a difference. And instead of just yelling at each other and saying you're not good enough to be called a libertarian, put your money where your mouth is. Not even money, just put your time where your mouth is. Do something.
Bingo. You want to know who a real libertarian is? One who goes out and does the damn thing. That's who a real libertarian is. Not just some guy who's bitching online about God knows what and what the government's doing. We're all fucking mad about that. Do you want to be fucking proactive? You be reactive. Go out and run for office. You just said there was chairs that were just open that people don't know about. There's also chairs that go uncontested at all. So whoever, look at your local, your local governments, and you'll see somebody who's had the same chair for 15, 16, 20 years because nobody's ever ran against them. Go get you some. Go out there and do it, and stop fighting amongst yourselves over things that don't really fucking matter. It doesn't matter who's getting things done as long as they're getting done. I don't care if it's the Mises Caucus. I don't care if it's the Unity Caucus. I don't care if it's a Sober Caucus. I don't care if it's any caucus. Get it done or get out.
Well, and that's the another big point that I want to make is there are so many people out there that are just raging on a Facebook group or in Discord, which, again, it's Discord for a reason. It's called Discord because it causes discord. I hope people understand that. It's named Discord. It's not named Hugs and Kisses or Kumbaya. It's named Discord. It causes discord. It's built for discord. All right, off my little rant there. But like the time and effort you spend every time you make a negative comment about another libertarian, I want you to think, I could be in a meeting in my local village, city, state, county, and I could be making a difference on who gets a business license, who gets to open up a new business, who gets to like park in a certain area. Like if you're a food, like you get to make a difference on who gets to serve food when and where. You get to make a difference on, real things. I mean, we just voted on a new a business in my local village about a tattoo parlor that was going to open up. And like, I got to meet with that owner after the fact and go, I am so glad that you are putting forward and risking everything to start a business in my town or my village. And I'm so glad I was able to be there to vote yes, so you could do that. Like, instead of spending your time in a social media platform bitching about another libertarian, that's what you should be doing. And that gets me so riled up because people are out there trying to do good work. I took on the communication director position because I saw that there was problems with internal communication in our party. And I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to make things positive. And as soon as I put forward that idea, I was trashed. And I had to quit every social media platform that I had been a member of because I saw my name being dragged through the mud because I was trying to make a difference. But it wasn't what somebody else wanted to hear or wanted me to do. And so the shit talking started. And I'm out here taking on responsibilities. Out here making a difference in my local community. And what are these people doing? They're on social media groups bitching. And that's what people need to start looking in the mirror and going, what are you doing for liberty? Because tearing down other libertarians, no, that's a fail.
The craziest thing is like, you know, the internal bullshit that has happened here within the state of Michigan got so bad that it went to court. Okay. Yeah, we're going to go there. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I can't wait to go to the Libby's on Saturday. You guys are going to hate me. Sorry, not sorry. It needs to be said. This show is sponsored by Infinite Zeal Syndicate. You can follow him on Twitter @_Infinite Zeal. He is a great liberty-minded fella that just wants to share the message of liberty and also has fantastic merch like this hat I'm wearing right now. You see me wear it on every show. He's a great gentleman, and I highly suggest you give him a follow because he's one of the good ones, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's get on with the show. But the fact of the matter is, I've never in my life seen so many libertarians excited to bring the state into their drama, dude. Like, let me just put it out there. Working through things amongst yourselves is kind of a libertarian thing. That's kind of our thing. That's kind of our shtick.
It should be our thing.
Okay. Now we got libertarians that are real excited to get the state involved into our drama, which not only one is deteriorating to the party itself, but now you're letting the state know that there's internal problems when we already have a problem in the state in general. Okay. Now, the fact of the matter is that we've already touched base on this. The Libertarian Party is not rich. We don't have a lot of money. We're not Republicans and Democrats. We don't get a bunch of donors. There's not millions of dollars that come through this party, dude, especially when it comes by state by state. So the little bit of money that we had is now gone. Gone. The money is gone. Because you people couldn't figure out how to figure it out amongst yourselves. And now all the money's been taken by the state. Congratulations, libertarians. That is pretty fucked up in my eyes. I'm calling you out right now. And the fact of the matter is, well, before we get into the fact of the matter, there's nobody that's come out and said they're running for office in the state of Michigan, besides maybe one, maybe, right? And a lot of it has to do with, I think, the court battle, because I was asked to run for state senate by LPMI. Okay. And there was two major reasons I didn't. One, the major reason was because I was an asshole in my 20s, and there's a paper trail on that, and I would get smeared through the media. But number two is I knew there was going to be no money. I knew there was going to be no money to back me on a campaign to run against Alyssa Slotkin, who is projected to fucking raise $50 million.
Well, it's not even, I don't think it's just the money. It's the fact that we don't have a built-in support structure for candidates.
Because nobody's real libertarian, right?
Because everybody's fighting amongst each other. And so,
yes.
and you're going to be thrown right under the bus as soon as you say something out of step with somebody else's viewpoint. And that's, I love that libertarians are liberty-minded. They're individuals. And that's great because that's why we're libertarians. But the downside to that is you're willing to die on your horse.
Well, the craziest part is like, you know, everybody's gung-ho to go to court. We lose all our money. Great. That's great. The state just took all our money in court battles. Cool, guys. Real great. Now, you want people to run on their own accord, or like, you know, with minimal backing. But then I've heard grumblings from some other people within the party that says, well, hey, the Mises caucus or the LPN will fucking show up and help us. Well, that's great. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I do have with that is that you became indigent on your own accord. Okay. So what you're trying to do is ask for something that all libertarians loathe, and that's a fucking bailout. You're asking for a bailout from your own political party because you couldn't figure out how to get along amongst yourselves and get all your money stolen from the state of Michigan. Thank you very much.
Well, I would say stolen by the lawyers, but yeah, it's stolen either way.
It's stolen because you couldn't figure it out amongst yourselves. Lawyers, well, there's court costs and stuff like that. The state got your money. Okay. And we're supposed to be against the state. I like I said, I come from a very, very big place of love and in concern when I say this, but I feel like we need to talk about this. And it's not just happening here in Michigan. It's happening in other states. We just happen to be the forefront of a shit show. And everybody who's anybody knows about it and knows like, whoa, Michigan's in bad shape. And I'm talking big names, folks. I talk to a lot of people. And they're like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
It is. And it is almost scary when you bring in, people that are new and who want to be more involved in the party. And
you couldn't even get them to sign up for the party because they couldn't pay online because there was no bank account for them to fucking put it into.
Well,
and
but
it's only $25.
Even that is, I think there are some strong affiliates out there, but even the affiliate engagement is just so low. And I agree that like the problem with the state and the legal battles but even then, like we should be doing better at the affiliate level. And that's where I think that's where my big driver is. Like, I'm a decentralist. Like, I don't want people to even know what's happening at the state level in the party. I don't want them to care, and I don't even want them to know. I want them to be so concerned and so involved in their local affiliate that that's all that matters to them. And that's where we need to spend our time and effort, is to grow our affiliates, engage our affiliates, find ways to win. We need to win. We need a vision. We need a purpose. We need to win. And even if it's a small win, even if it's just a local committee seat, that's all. That honestly, I don't care if any libertarians get elected to any electoral or races. That's, getting back, if we could get 10% of libertarians that are approved or sat on a local board or a local commission, and we could brag about that and say, hey, check out in Michigan, we just, in this last year, we had 10 libertarians appointed to X, Y, and Z in this county, this village, this city, this town, whatever it may be. Like, we need those wins, but we need people who are willing to do that. And I'm speaking from like personal example. Like, it's a 1 hour meeting once a month for me. Maybe you're in a larger community and maybe it's a meeting every other week, but we're not asking a lot to just put your foot out and like be involved locally. What I've heard is, well, I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in the state. Therefore, I would never put my time and effort into a state agency. What I've also heard is, well, our bylaws don't apply because I don't believe in the state. And therefore, it is like, people need to understand your ideal situation that's great. I would love to live in a situation where there was no state. We have to play in the sandbox we live in. I mean, that's what it is.
Yes.
I mean, these are rules that are imposed on us by state, by like requirements for being a political organization. Like, these are the rules we have to live by. And maybe we don't like them, but we have to live by them. And just when all of a sudden they don't meet your demand or meet your requirements, or they're getting in the way of your end goal, you can't just say, well, I'm going to ignore that because I don't believe in the state. Like, You would be surprised at how many times I've heard a libertarian say that to justify breaking rules or bypassing normal civic behavior when it comes to a political organization, where it's like, well, I don't have to follow that because I'm a libertarian. It's like, no, you have to play in the sandbox. We're in this sandbox. You can't just say now I'm on a beach. No, you're in a sandbox. You have to play in that sandbox, and that's
You're hitting the
shitty.
nail on the head. You really are, because I am an anarchist. I started as a neocon back in the day, and then 2007, 2008 came. I became a libertarian, and then 2020 came, and I became an anarchist. Because of the way the government handled things. But I'm a realist too. As an anarchist, I understand that I don't want a state. I don't want a state at all. It's not what I want. I feel like the state is an evil entity. They don't produce anything. They don't do anything. All they do is steal and kill. That's my personal feelings on the state, is that they steal and kill, and that's what they do. The Libertarian Party wants to take down the state, and that's something I can back. But they don't want to take down the state all the way. There's still they still want people there to cross the T's and dot the I's. And I understand that. And I'm not going to go against that. And this is why I will platform libertarians and why I love libertarians as an anarchist, because I know that that is somewhere closer to what we have now, to what I want, the end game.
Somebody once told me, and I think it was in a podcast, but it's like, there's a bus. The bus starts where we're at right now, which I consider America a fascist state. And I consider most democracies in the world right now a form of fascism, because it is a collaboration between private entities and government agencies. And that's the textbook definition of fascism. And if you have regulations and you have licensure requirements, that basically means the state can turn you off anytime they want. So that's, to me, that's like Hitler's wet dream. Like, yes, we are living in a fascist state. So yes, that's where we're at today, right? Full anarchy is the end of the line on this bus route, where there is absolutely no state. So there is going to be people who are going to get off that bus at certain stops. All I care about is you're on that bus. I want you on that bus line. That's the blue line that ends in anarchy. That's, as long as you're on that bus line. Maybe you get off at ANCAP. Maybe you get off at Constitutional Conservative. Maybe, but you're on that line. That line ends in full anarchy.
But all those
that's the important thing.
In the middle, if they choose to, they could totally. We have so much more alike than we do different. Could you imagine if all the libertarians, all the anarchists, ANCAPs, constitutionalists, people like that just said, hey, we're going to end this shit right now. We are going to do this one way or another. If there was a way for all of those people to figure it out, it's over. This shit is over.
Well, I think
close.
Most Americans, if you put it on paper and you were to test them, which political party they most aligned with, it was a blind. I bet you most people would be libertarians.
Yes,
100%. I want to live my life. I don't want people telling me what to do, and I'm not going to tell other people what to do. Like, I think Trump woke up a large percentage of the right to libertarian ideas, right? Like, live and let live. Don't get involved in foreign entanglements. And at the same time, I think we saw some people, I mean, I think that's really driving RFK's candidacy right now, is there's a lot of disenfranchised leftists who are like, I don't want to be in a foreign war. Like, you just had Cardi B, I think it was a TikTok today or yesterday, went on a rant because they're cutting, social services in New York, and the public school and the sanitary system. These are all these cuts. And she's like, and we're spending another 100 billion overseas on war. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, so you have a big a big chunk of disenfranchised leftists and a giant chunk of disenfranchised right. Like, we have the momentum, and it's, I mean, for good or bad, you've got somebody who's, an RFK who's monopolizing that momentum, and he's getting 20%. And I have to root for the guy because I want the duopoly destroyed. I want the veil of you can only vote A or B. Like, I want that shattered, because if we can shatter that, then we stand a chance.
Well,
And
why can't our people go out and get 20% then? Why can't our people go out and win? That's the thing. It's because they sell themselves short on saying, hey, we're just going to go get 5% of the vote. Or if we can only just get ballot access. No, play the game to win or don't play at all.
Well, there's a part of it is there is so many people that don't even realize there is another choice. So the last time we had a libertarian candidate who ran for governor, I was able to talk with her a few times. And one of the things that she said is that most of her campaign stumps, she was educating people on what is a libertarian. That she spent more time just trying to inform people of what is a libertarian than who she was. And like, that's a failure in my eyes. Like, how are we not doing it? It doesn't cost anything to educate the public. And that's where I think, for me, getting into podcasting was like, I was so tired of just bitching to friends about this problem and that problem. And I was absorbing a ton of media, like whether it's podcasts or like news articles or like YouTube. And what was I doing with it? I was just bitching. And it's like, no, I need to do something else. I need to do something else. And so, like, I started in podcasting. I'm on the national communications committee, where, like, I get involved. So, if you're looking for, the National Libertarian Party, I don't necessarily post. I do a lot more discovery of like articles and stuff like that. But I'm out there. I'm doing something. That's where I think what drives me nuts, tying this back into like state party politics, is stop tearing down co-libertarians. We're on the same bus. You may want to get off sooner or later than someone else. We're on the same bus, and do something with that. Do something with that. Don't just bitch on some social media platform or group, or like, do something. Like, I'm so tired. I think the infighting is bad enough, but I mean, if you were in you had a podcast, you were involved at the state party, you were involved in the national party, you were involved in local politics, and then you wanted to like bitch at a fellow libertarian. I'm like, all right, I don't want to. To me, that's like, again, non-productive. Doesn't further liberty when you're tearing down another libertarian, but at least you're putting your money where your mouth is. You're doing something. You're actively furthering liberty. But when you're not doing anything and you're just tearing down another libertarian on social media, I'd rather you not be in the party, because you're not helping. You're not helping. So, like, look in the mirror, look at the last week, look at the last month. Look at how many times you said something negative about another libertarian on social media, and then compare that to what you've done to further liberty, and weigh that, put that on the scale. Your negative comments tearing down other libertarians versus what you've done to further liberty. Balance that out. That's what all I really want is to say, hey, look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Just be honest with yourself. What have I done to further liberty in my local community, in the state party, in the national party? We should be building resumes. Like, if I'm applying to be like the perfect libertarian, what does my resume show that says I deserve that position? Like, I can guarantee you, if you've just been on Discord or Facebook or any of these social media platforms just shitting on other libertarians, your resume sucks, dude and dudess. Like, it's time to look in the mirror and say, what have I done recently? What have I done to further liberty in And that's just, I just don't see it happening. And maybe, you know what, maybe it is happening. You know, if you're out there and you're like, you know, I'm busting my ass and I'm doing X and I'm doing Y and I'm involved in this and I'm involved in that, brag. I want to hear about it. Like, whether that's, you know, like post something on my podcast, post something on Sean's podcast, like, you know, if we get the chance to celebrate you because you're advocating and you're furthering the cause of liberty, I'd love to have you a guest on my podcast and talk to you about, you know, your success story and
Amen.
what are you doing. Like, I think I've sent that call out a few times on in different podcasts and say I'd love to have you on because I want to celebrate success. I'm tired of just seeing negativity. It's not working. It's not worked for years in this flippin' party. We need a revolution. We need to wake the fuck up and we need to stop just tearing each other down and stand on our principles. Do something with it.
Stop
I just
stop going to court. Stop wasting our money. You've wasted all our money. Thank you very much. I'm very sour about that, and I'm not going to be quiet about that. The money's gone, and I'm sour as fuck about that. But let me tell you something. LPMI, listen up. I love you guys so much. Let's take a page out of LP Arkansas's book. Okay? That party is unified. They are doing great things. They all love each other. They're doing awesome things. The unity is there. Everybody loves each other. And they got Mises people. They got old guard people. They got everybody over there, dude. Arkansas is doing great things over there. And that's coming from an extremely credible source. I know you're listening to the show. I'm not going to use a name. I promise not to tell no names.
shout out to you know who you are.
But no, like, but you know who you are, and anybody who knows me knows who I'm talking about. But no, like, Michigan, you guys, this shit has to end now, or we might as well dismantle. We might as well dismantle LPMI. I'm not the only one who feels this way. I'm not. There's a lot of us who are ready to be like, fuck it, okay? We don't want to be fuck it. We want to grow this. We want to make things better. Let's figure this out. It doesn't matter. I want everybody in one room. I want Mises Caucus people. I want people from the old guard. I want people from all caucuses to get in the same room, and let's just talk about it. We can hash this out. It's not a big deal. We all want the same shit.
And kind of going back to my like celebrating wins, you know, as the co-communications director, and I can speak for Josh on this. Like, if you're seeing success and you're doing something that furthers liberty, and maybe that's just something local in your community, maybe that's something to do with national, maybe you're involved in a campaign, whatever it is, we want to celebrate you. We want to celebrate success. And if you're like shy and you're like, oh, I don't want the spotlight, we'll take your name out of it, but we still want to share the success story. I think we focus too much on tearing each other down, and I don't want that to be the focus. I don't want that to be, because that's not something that we want to brag about as being a state of like self-destructive libertarians. Like, I want to see some success. I want to see people like winning, you know. Charlie Sheen the shit out of this. Like, let's do this. Let's do this. And that's kind of my call to action. Like, I get involved, make a difference, be a positive influence. And if you're, maybe you are in one of these social media groups and you see libertarians going at each other, be the peacemaker. Step in and say, shut up, both of you. You're not furthering liberty. And you don't have to take a side. And I don't want people to like, that's what I think irks me even more than anything else, is the feeling like people like they have to take a side in whoever's argument. And that's where I don't like open forum discussions like Discord, where you can just be an outsider and find something that you disagree with, and then you jump in on that conversation and attack somebody because you got offended when it had nothing to do with you. And that's why Discord's called Discord, because that's what it promotes.
And you hit it on the head. Like, let's find things that we agree on and fight the fuck out of those things. Let's go do that. Let's go find things that we agree on and go fight for those things.
And promote the winning. Don't promote the discord. Don't promote tearing each other down. Don't add fuel to those fires. Fuel your own fire. Like if you're somebody like me or Sean, who is just like, I'm fed up with the state party in what it's doing to itself, step away. You don't have to get involved in that level of just shit throwing. That's all it is. You're just throwing shit at each other. It doesn't do any, it just tears people down. It causes division. It causes, can you imagine? Like, I think we've all been a new party member. I remember when I first joined Discord and like I started peeking behind the curtain. If I had not already established people or like relationships, and that was my first experience to the Libertarian Party in Michigan, I would have been gone. Like, it was close that I was going to be gone regardless of the relationships I already established. But thankfully I had those. But I would never turn people loose to our social media sites.
No. I've actually,
and that's on us. That's on us.
I've only gotten 3 people to join the party this year, but I would not invite them to a Discord or anything of the sort like that, because I don't want them to see that. I want them to see the positive energy of the party, and that's that. And
I've lost 5 people to Discord that were potential and some active members in the party, and they quit because of what they saw. And we're killing ourselves. Like, you just might as well be a cutter at that point. Like, that's what the state of Michigan is. The state party is, we're just cutters. We're self-destructing, and like, we got to stop. I've had these conversations with individuals in the party who are like, but I'm right, they're wrong, I have to get my voice through, I have to prove. Like, no, you don't.
There's nothing to prove. There's getting things done. That's what you
disagree. We disagree. How about we talk about this local election? How about we talk about the fact that I just saw that there was 6 empty seats on this local committee? How about we talk about, hey, Young Americans for Liberty, like, hey, they'd like to partner with us in this, whatever it may be at this college campus. Like, steer the conversation, and you just say, hey, you know what? Is I don't know, the agree to disagree verbiage. Yeah, it sounds tacky, and it's like, but you know what? That ends conflict sometimes, where you just like, you know what? I want to vote for X as the Libertarian, presidential candidate. You want to vote for Y?
Vote for it, be done.
Good luck. But you know what? Be done. Not only that, but like, if you are so strongly like for this candidate, what are you doing for their presidential committee? Like, are you raising money for them, or you just want them to win instead of somebody? Like, the amount of conflict I've seen just over libertarian presidential candidates is like, none of them are going to win. So you're fighting over, they're all losers. They're all losers. We know we're
going to fight over somebody who's going to take maybe 3%. They're not getting 5. I don't think any of our candidates are getting 5%.
Not with an RFK. So like, if you're in a social media platform and you're like, oh, Ben, I'm fighting for X, he's the guy I want to be the libertarian candidate, and that's what I'm doing to further liberty, you know what's going to happen. You're not furthering liberty. They're not going to win. So don't tell me that's your big success story, is fighting for a losing candidate, because yeah, you may be 100% behind this candidate, and that's great. I'm glad you're passionate because this candidate is supporting an issue that you find dear and near to your heart. But that person's going to lose. So that's great that you want them, you're going to vote for them at national, but what are you doing locally? What are you doing for the state party? What are you doing for the national party? What are you doing to further liberty in your life, where you can make an impact? That's what I want to hear about. I don't want to hear about like, well, I boosted a post on Twitter, or I commented on, like, that's not a badge of honor. It's not. You're not doing anything. These are all losing candidates. Yeah, we want a great messenger. Like that, to me, the libertarian, presidential candidate should be a great messenger. And that's my personal opinion.
I'll
Other
back
people
that.
are saying, well, I want a great libertarian candidate who has, you know, steeped in the traditions of libertarianism and who really knows their facts. Like, well, that's, if that's your priority, good on you. That's not my priority. But I'm not going to sit there and spend hours in Discord or Facebook or any other social media group tearing you down because you're supporting the wrong candidate. Holy shit. And that's what happened. That's what's been happening for the last, I don't know how many months. And it's like, they're
Years.
all, it doesn't matter who the LP puts forward as their candidate. They're going to lose. So all that time and effort you spent tearing down other libertarians, you're not going to get that time and emotion back. Like, why don't you put that into something that can win? We need to win.
We
Stop
need to
putting
win.
into that, like, stop putting that into losers. We need to win.
We need sheriffs, we need mayors, we need county clerks, we need school board, we need road commission, we need anything that is local. We need, God, local, we have to start local. The national thing just isn't going to work right now. And that's just being real. You know, let's get our county commissioners in there. Let's get our city clerks in there. Let's get our mayors in there. Let's get the local thing ramped up. And then maybe by 2028, we'll have some people ready to go for some national shit. But for right now, we need to get local chairs filled immediately, especially local sheriffs and mayors. Local sheriffs and mayors is huge.
To that point, and that's, I'm glad you brought that up, is it's a stepping stone. You can't just step into being a state senator. Like,
No,
you need to build, you know, kind of get back to that resume. Like, you need to start like meeting people and building that resume. And that, a lot of times that starts with an unelected position in a commission or
yes.
in a committee. And then you start like shaking hands and like, oh, who are you? Oh, I'm a libertarian. You start building your brand. You start build like, and the next thing you know, you're chair of that committee, right? Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have a libertarian that's chair of this committee. Oh, next thing you know, it's this, you know, all of a sudden there's a position that's coming up, you know, that's an elected position. Now you have a base. Like, you can't just, it's like anything. Like, if I want to run a hospital, again, speaking from healthcare, you don't just apply to become president of that hospital. I mean, yes, that sometimes happens, but it works so much better if you start as the janitor and maybe you put in 5 years, and next thing you know, you're running this department and that department, and you get some education, and all of a sudden you build a brand and people know who you are. They start respecting you as a person, and you start climbing that ladder, you know. And I don't know, again, kind of going back, is it just like a libertarian, like, oh, I'm not playing the system because, you know, I'm anti, like, again, we are in the sandbox. You have to play in the sandbox, and this is how you succeed in the sandbox. And again, going back to tearing each other down, it's not going to succeed in that sandbox. So I just a little bit to get off my soapbox is, as a, you know, as a communications director, if you have successes like that, or maybe it's just maybe it's a local candidate, maybe they're running as a Democrat or Republican, and but they have like strong libertarian principles, and you're like, you know, I'm working on this campaign, and I think we should really like, this needs to be communicated because this person is principled. They align with 80% of my values as a libertarian. Reach out. I'd love to promote that candidate. I'd love to promote what you're doing for that candidate. So it's ben.dejong, DEJONG, at me.com. Reach out. I would love to get you into the, whether it's, you know, maybe there's something I could promote on social media. Maybe we can put it into the newsletter. Like, this is the wins we need. You know, we need to get past the finger pointing and the backstabbing, and we need to celebrate winning. And even if it's small, even if it's local, and I don't even like saying even, because I think those are all way more impactful than running a Secretary of State candidate.
Everything's
Is
winnable. Anything is winnable by anyone. The fact of the matter is, it all comes to messaging and unity. Now, you know, the Republican Party itself is in disarray because they are not unified. And look what's happening to them. They can't win elections right now, but they have a lot of money that backs them. Now imagine being a party that doesn't get along and doesn't have any money backing them. How the fuck do you think you're going to get ahead? You're not. It's not going to happen. We need to figure this shit out, and it needs to happen now, because the Libertarian Party is in big trouble right now. And in a situation where we could really make some noise. We could really, really, really make some noise. We really could, because the status quo is sick of it. Literally, there's people willing to vote for RFK Jr. 20% are willing to vote for RFK Jr., who is just another authoritarian. He's one of them. He's literally one of them. Imagine a libertarian, like, you guys. It's not hard to figure out. You just need to figure it out and stop finger pointing, like Ben said, and shut up and grow up. Shut up and grow up. That's my message. Shut up and grow up.
And if you're somebody that is, maybe you're new to the party, maybe you're an old guard, maybe you're somebody new from the Mises Caucus, everybody has kind of that, like, that voice in their head. And maybe that voice in your head is somebody that's an active member in the party right now. There needs to be a litmus test that everybody in this party, if you're listening to another party member and they're telling you what you should do or you shouldn't do, or trying to give you direction, what I want you to do, what I ask of you to do is what they're asking me to do, what they're telling me to do, what they're suggesting me to, does it further liberty or does it cause further division? That should be your litmus test. So if you are, again, especially if you're new to the party and you're like, oh, I really like Ben. You know what? That's the guy that, I agree with on a lot of stuff. I've been listening to his podcast. Thank you if that's the case. But that's what I want from you is what is Ben saying? Is he causing division or is he promoting success? I'm not a unity guy, because I think that there are individuals in this party who have crossed the line, and I have no desire to reunify with them. So I am not a unity guy. There are certain things that there are people in this party who have done that I personally will never want to do business with in any form or another. So, but I am a liberty guy. So even if maybe you were misled by some individuals who got you to, got you riled up, because there are some individuals that love that in this party, is to, rail on that crank and get people all worked up. And then they point them at the people they don't like and they go blow them up. I mean, I've seen that. And again, this is especially, pre 2021. But that's what I want, is if you have somebody in your ear who's a libertarian in the state or even out of the state, if there are some people who've been listening to Nicholas Sarwark, which, like, if you're listening to him, you need to really check yourself, because I know he's attended some meetings in this state and has been whispering in people's ears. And you want to talk about a snake, this guy is disgusting. And he is looking to tear the party down because he lost. So that's the kind of people, like, is the person in my ear, are they promoting success? Is their message a winning message? Or are they just trying to tear the party down and tear each other down and burn the party down? That's what I want people to start, not just in your actions, but on the people you're listening to. It goes both ways. We need to stop. We just need to stop and just say, you know what? This doesn't support liberty. This does not further our state. This does not further our state party. Like we talked about, we're months away from a huge recession. We all know it's coming. We all know it's coming.
And it's going to be bad.
And it's going to be horrible.
Like, a recession is an understatement. Like the Great Depression Like,
That's a
going to be
distinct
along those
possibility.
lines and some. I mean, let's be real here. I don't want to blackpill you guys, but
Well,
like,
but authoritarianism, that's I think is even worse than the depression or the economic collapse,
well,
is
because there's a reason for it.
what's the state's going to push to solve it. That could be a CBDC with a UBI associated with it. Like, that's full control over your money.
That's what I'm
Now
talking about.
everybody works for the state. If you don't own your own money, you're all slaves. Like, but that could be so. Like, that's what we're facing as a nation right now. And so to just be bitching about who's losing candidate for president should be elected, and we have something like a UBC and or a CBDC and a UBI in 12 months. Like, people need to understand, like, you may be spoiled right now, and most people I don't think feel spoiled, but put yourself in Argentina, put yourself in Ukraine,
I mean,
put yourself in
anywhere, really.
Gaza,
Yeah.
right? Like, that could be us if we don't, like, get our shit straight, because
There's only one political party that's ready to fight that. There's only one, and it's not Republicans or Democrats or independents or Green parties or Tea parties or anybody. There's one political party that's ready to go to war with the CBDC, aka banking system, aka the Federal Reserve, aka the foreign policy that comes
it's
along.
authoritarianism. Like, we are the only party who are against authoritarian principles,
Only
because
one.
that's what has been pushed down our throat for eons. I mean, COVID showed that blatantly. But that's, again, I wish people would wake up and stop. Like, again, if you're going to spend your time bitching about another libertarian on social media and you're not doing anything to further liberty, I'd join the Democrats, Republicans, please. The last thing I want is to shrink our party, but for those members who are only here to break our party down, you're not welcome.
Get out.
You're not welcome. So do something. Be a voice for liberty. Do something about anything, really. But if you're just here to tear down libertarians, I'd rather you find something else to do with your time.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. Like, it's either be a part of this movement or don't. This is where we're at. We're done with the infighting. We're not going to do this anymore. I've even considered going along the lines of starting my own caucus just in case LPMI goes under, because that's a real thing. You guys, Michigan, I love you. LPMI members, I love you guys so much. Old guard, new guard, I love you guys. I have people from both sides. I really do. And you guys are great. And we all have a great time together.
Sean can love all of you. I don't love all of you.
No,
I've been around long enough to see some
this
wolves in
can be
sheep
done
clothing.
though. It can all be done, but we need to take a page out of Arkansas's book. Thank you, Michael White. I'm just going to put his name out there because that's my homie. He's an Arkansas guy, but he's the one who told me, like, we don't have these problems in Arkansas. They don't have this shit in Arkansas. Everything goes smoothly there. Let's take a page. Let's talk to those people. We could talk to them. We could do anything. But right now, the way Michigan is going, either be a part of this movement or get out. This is where I'm at. And I think Ben's the same way. And I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people from both sides of the aisle that are going to say, either get in on this movement or get out of the way and be done with it. And if LPMI goes under, I will start the ANCAP caucus. I will do it myself. I will totally do it. I am an anarcho-capitalist. I know you're not the anarchist that I am, but I will start it, and I will make sure things get done. And I won't put up with fighting. We are going to do this unified, or we're not going to do it at all. We might as well just throw in the towel.
But to your point earlier, I'm going to make a pitch, because we're going to have an episode on my podcast to talk about anarchism versus capitalism, because I think that's the great discussion to be had of, like,
I need to get
kind of that's, again, it's kind of like, where do you get off the bus? For me, all I care about is you're on the bus to freedom. So no matter where you get off the bus, but I think Michael Malice has done a great job of really kind of pushing forward the term anarchy, anarchism, anarcho-capitalism. These are all great terms, and I think they're really great discussion points. Where my concern is, and this is something I think Dave Rubin really pushed, was for classical liberalism, to try to take the word liberalism back from the left and to make it to what it really was. My concern is that anarchism there is so much misconceptions around that term. Should we really be embracing it? So if you'd like to have or like to be a part of that discussion, we'll be having that.
Get in on that, because I am very debate ready when it comes to anarchism versus statism.
So Sean and I will be having that on my podcast coming up soon. Because I think it's a really good kind of it's a thought exercise, because we're nowhere near that. Obviously, as I stated before, we are in a phase of fascism. But it is interesting to have that discussion about, like, what is the end goal for libertarians, and what is a realistic goal versus what is not realistic, what is ideal versus non-ideal. I love that kind of like a thought experiment. So
that's why I say I'm a realist when it comes to being an anarchist. Like, I'm an anarchist, but I'm not just gonna be like, fuck the state, and anybody who tries to intervene with that is no good. No, libertarians are good when it comes to say fuck the state, because libertarians want to fuck the state too. They just have a little bit of a state involved, but I'll take that. I will take a very minimal, very, very minimal state over what we have now.
Anarchists will fuck the state, and they want to look them in the eye. Like, capitalists will fuck the state, but we are going to do it from behind. It's more like
both of them and look them in the eye. How about that? How about that? I'll give them a sexy look too. You know what I mean? Let's do it.
I'm wearing sunglasses, bitch.
Yep. But dude, Ben, thank you so much for your time. This has been great. I'm glad we did this. I hope you guys know from LPMI that, we both come from this from a place of love and genuine concern of the party, and that's why we left out names and caucuses and stuff like that. We're just here to be like, hey, enough is enough already, as Scott Horton would say. Let's get shit done, or just get out of the way.
Yep. Lead, follow, get out of the way.
Let's get stuff done together, unified, or get out of the way. That's all we're asking. It's not a big ask. And I feel like a lot of us are on the same page. LPMI, I love you guys. Libertarian Party, I love you guys. Of course, I love my ANCAPs, but, this is, these are conversations that need to be had. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, actually.
I appreciate you like prioritizing this and having this conversation. I know Josh Youngman would have loved to be involved, but wasn't able to jump on this. So maybe we can do it again with his involvement as well, because I think he does have a different kind of a little bit of a take as a newer member to the party. So he does have a unique viewpoint. But stay tuned. I definitely want to have Sean on my podcast, where we talk about the kind of the bus line to pure anarchy. But again, if you want to celebrate a success, because it just doesn't happen enough in our party, feel free to email me, ben.dejong, DEJONG @me.com, me.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm not going to throw you into the newsletter. Like, I'm not going to put you on blast on social media. I'm not doing anything until, like, you need to be comfortable with it. So don't think that it's, you're going to give me a story and I'm going to like put it in on a banner on a plane, although I'd love to. But we need to celebrate wins, and we need to celebrate success, and we need to stop getting involved in just throwing shit at each other. So, but again, my podcast is The State 180. Feel free to look me up. Sean and I'm sure we'll be collaborating throughout both of our podcasts moving forward. We are simpatico on all that matters. And so I appreciate him giving me a platform, and I really appreciate him joining me on mine as well. So thank you all for listening, and thank you, Sean, for hosting.
Thank you very much. Peace, love, and liberty, y'all. Let's get this done. Let's make things change. Let's do it together. Unified. Unity. UNITY. Old school U. Queen Latifah right there. A lot of people won't know that. They'll be like, who the hell's Queen Latifah? I'll be like, I'm old. Don't worry about it. But y'all, be good. Thanks, Ben. Till next time. Be good.